So last night on August 29th, 2022, Adrian Wojnarowski reported breaking news that the New York Knicks were signing RJ Barrett to a 4-year, $120 million contract extension, which likely means that Barrett will not be included in any trade scenario for Donovan Mitchell, as Adrian Wojnarowski also noted that there is a poison pill provision on this new contract extension which limits the trade possibility of Barrett. But after Woj, Shams reported that RJ will still likely be in a trade package as Danny Ainge really covets him, but I do think that that is not going to happen since it's likely the Jazz front office telling this to Shams, which could be false as well. And the reason for them to tell Shams to report this is for leverage on their side. But today we're going to be discussing the two trade possibilities and trade scenarios that would land Donovan Mitchell in New York despite RJ Barrett's contract extension, and these trades would not include Barrett in the deal. And before I get into that, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel as we're trying to currently hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. And now with that all out of the way, let's get into trade scenario number 1. So in this trade scenario, the New York Knicks would receive Donovan Mitchell and the Charlotte Hornets would be involved as a third team, and they would receive Evan Fournier's back contract, Cam Reddish, as well as a first-round pick from the Washington Wizards that's protected, and a 2024 second-round pick from the Detroit Pistons. And Utah would receive Mason Plumlee's and Kelly Oubre's expiring contract, Quentin Grimes, who's a player that they definitely covet from the Knicks, Kai Jones, and Miles McBride as additional young players, and 4 future first-round picks, with 3 of them being unprotected and 1 protected in 2023. So in my opinion, this scenario is pretty good for all 3 teams, and for the Utah Jazz specifically, because they will be receiving 3 good young players that they could develop, especially Quentin Grimes, who they believe will be a really good player in the NBA and maybe even a star. And Utah would also be receiving 2 expiring contracts, which does not really matter for them because Plumlee and Oubre Jr. will not really help them too much to win games, which is all they're concerned about by trying to lose as much as possible in their tanking process. And if they want to, they could likely even reroute Mason Plumlee or Kelly Oubre Jr. in separate deals. And Woj recently reported that the Jazz do not want to take on Evan Fournier's big contract for the next 2 years, and they would rather him getting rerouted to a third team, and then they would be receiving expiring contracts from that third team. Which is an additional reason to why this type of a trade scenario or a Lakers deal would also make sense, because either Russell Westbrook's large expiring contract would go to Utah, or these 2 expiring contracts with Mason Plumlee and Kelly Oubre Jr. would go to the Jazz. And even though Danny Ainge reportedly covets 4 future unprotected first-round picks, it will be pretty hard for him to get that, so I think he will settle in for 3 unprotected picks from the Knicks, with them being in 2023, 2024, and 2025, which will give the New York Knicks some more opportunities to land another star by containing their 2027 and 2029 unprotected first-round picks. And for the New York Knicks aspect of this trade, I think they also get a win-win scenario because they do not include Obi Toppin, who is someone that Utah also covets alongside RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes. And being able to keep both Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin as their chemistry is awesome, that's a great thing for the Knicks to have, even though they trade Cam Reddish. And overall, the Knicks pretty much give up 5 future first-round picks, with 3 of them being unprotected and 2 being protected, and 1 of those protected picks going to Charlotte. And for the Charlotte Hornets being the 3rd team to help facilitate this type of a deal, this pretty much is a solid deal for them as well, because they only need to give up a 1 young player in Kai Jones. And it looks like they're not planning on keeping Kai Jones and developing him for the rest of his career, because they actually drafted Mark Williams as their center replacement likely for Kai Jones in this year's draft. And they also have Mason Plumlee, who they're still trading in this deal, but they're still left with guys like PJ Washington and potentially Miles Bridges in the front court. And they get a polarizing and talented young player in Cam Reddish, who is better than Kai Jones at this point of his career, and is only 22 years old and entering the final year of his rookie scale contract, which means that he will likely try to prove himself this coming season. And even though Evan Fournier's contract is not the best, he will still help them out with his shooting techniques off of the bench. And they also get a first-round pick in 2023 from the Knicks, but it is protected from the Washington Wizards, as well as a second-round pick for giving up 2 expiring contracts to the Utah Jazz, as well as their 1 young player in Kai Jones. And the second trade scenario will be involving the Los Angeles Lakers, where the Knicks would be receiving Donovan Mitchell. The Lakers would be trading Russell Westbrook's expiring contract to the Utah Jazz. And New York's Evan Fournier and Utah's Bojan Bogdanovic would be going to the Lakers as well in this type of a deal, with Cam Reddish as well. As Mark Berman of the New York Post is reporting that the Lakers still have very high interest in Cam Reddish and would be willing to give up 2 unprotected first-round picks to Danny Ainge of the Utah Jazz if they would receive a couple of good veteran players like Bojan Bogdanovic and maybe Evan Fournier or Jordan Clarkson, and Cam Reddish as their young player. And the Knicks would be parting with 2 unprotected first-round picks, which would in total make it be 4 unprotected first-round picks from New York and LA to go to the Utah Jazz, which is what Danny Ainge clearly covets. And likely 1 or 2 more protected first-round picks going to the Lakers or the Jazz. And realistically, the young players that would also be going from the New York Knicks would likely include Quentin Grimes, Immanuel Quickley, or Obi Toppin. And if RJ will indeed not be included in any potential package, it would likely potentially require Obi Toppin and Quentin Grimes or Immanuel Quickley. So with that all being said, if you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and also hit that notification bell button, and of course subscribe to the channel as we are on the road to 5,000 subscribers. And I would love to hear your guys' opinions in the comment section down below in terms of which trade package would you guys most likely recommend if you were the Knicks out of these 2 that I proposed today. And now with that all out of the way, it's been KNYT here and I am out. Peace.